You're listening to the smartest guys in marketing, the best show on the planet for client businesses to learn about traffic, funnels, sales, conversions, and marketing coolness. Chris and Taylor are the founders of Traffic and Funnels, a digital marketing consultancy helping you get paid clients from cold traffic daily. Now, here are your hosts, Chris and Taylor.
One of the most profitable things you can do. You know, I'm getting serious when I accentuate every single syllable. Profitable, not profitable, profitable is going back and taking care of the way you think about yourself. And so a lot of people want to skip this step. They want to get into the ads and the pixels, and they want to know the fancy new tactics. There's no tactic that can outlast the strategy of working on yourself. How you handle pressure, how you handle problems, how you handle growth constraints, and all of the above. And so today, we're going to be talking a little bit about growth, my favorite topic. Growth. And if you're taking notes, and I hope that you are, because if you write something down, your chances of remembering the topic, I don't know what the percentage has been. You can look it up if you want. Something like raises your chances by like 50% or 60%. But hey, whatever. Just know that it makes it easier to remember. At the top of your page, I'm going to write growth happens when, and then draw an underline, because I'm going to fill in this blank for you later. Growth happens when, an underline. It's an old John Maxwell trick. John Maxwell is the OG in leadership training and leadership development, and he always used to do this. My dad would take me to these simulcasts, which is basically a room packed with people and then like a projector streaming a live event somewhere else. And he would always do these things where he'd give you a worksheet and he would have half of the words filled in and half the words would just have blank underlines. And there's got to be something to it. I don't know why he did that, but now I'm doing it to you. Growth happens when, underline. Here's the deal. Last couple months, I have gotten into, in fact, Mimi just messaged me about this, evolutionary psychology. I've been studying just not macro evolution, but I've been getting into just the process of how we grow, the process of how we advance, microevolution. And this is not really, I don't care whether you believe in, God or not. It doesn't matter whether you think we came from monkeys or not. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what is the process of a human being evolving slowly but surely. I've been getting into some evolutionary psychology stuff. And a couple months ago, I was listening to a training and I heard this story, and I was at the gym and I just walked over to the corner. I was like, forget these weights. And I just started writing on my iPhone. And there was a study done a while back by a lady named Lynn A. Isbell. And she's an evolutionary biologist. And she was studying the evolution of primates and how basically the trends in terms of geography affect the advancement of primates. And eventually she got into studying people as well. And anyways, Lynn found a crazy discovery. And she basically correlated. What she did is she sat down, and these are people now we're talking about, people with the best eyesight, with the most acute sense of vision, which is particularly important to an evolutionary biologist because eyesight is one of our main strengths when it comes to advantages we have over predators. They're interested in how did we develop eyesight? How do we develop the ability to run miles and miles and miles and miles? We have humans, we're not necessarily the most advantageous species. We don't have claws and fangs, and if we got in a fight with a wild bear, we would probably die. But we do have certain advantages that are very important advantages, and eyesight is one of them. And she found the following. Geographically, people had developed the most acute sense of vision in the same geographic areas that were most densely populated with snakes. Basically, in the areas geographically where the most snakes, the most predators, we developed the most acute sense of vision. And this is a really stunning correlation because it lended credibility to something that has now become known as predatory evolution or adversarial evolution, which states the following. We develop advantages in direct proportion to the areas we are threatened. Now this is getting interesting. At first you were like, why are you talking about monkeys? Why are you talking about monkeys and primates, bro? And now you're like, ooh, interesting. We develop advantages in the areas that we are most threatened. Raise your hand if you want your business to be easy. If you've ever wondered, I wish this would be easier. If you've ever wondered, I wish Facebook ads would be easier, go raise your hand or throw a me in the chat box. No judgment. How many of you have ever wanted your relationships to be easy? How many of you have ever said anything in your whole life that indicated you wanted something to be easier? And here's the thing. We develop advantages in the areas that we are most threatened. The problem with most people today, especially entrepreneurs, is they claim on one hand that they want to be strong. And then on the other hand, they wish that their lives were easy. And these are competing goals, mutually exclusive, and they will never be achieved both at the same time. Sorry, just warming up. Just shaking off the old chains of oppression and getting going here. Everyone's saying, yeah, me. Same. It actually throttles your ability to develop advantages when your life is easy. So we're going to keep going. Let me give you the answer to the question at the top. Growth happens when blank. Here, I'm actually going to give you three things. Growth happens when there is a strong adversary or strong resistance. Growth happens when there is a strong adversary. Right underneath that, right there, stagnation happens when there is a weak adversary or weak resistance. Growth happens when there is a strong adversary. Stagnation happens when there is a weak adversary. There's another level. Death happens when there is no adversary. You got three levels: growth, stagnation, and death. Growth happens when there is a strong resistance. Stagnation happens when there's weak resistance, and death happens when there is no resistance. So, how many of you are thankful that Facebook ads is not easy? All of a sudden, let's just change our tune. Walk that back. How many of you are thankful that to have a thriving marriage that lasts more than 6 months is difficult? How many of you are thankful that selling is not easy? Because we develop advantages in the areas that we are most threatened, where there's a strong adversary, there's strong resistance, we develop the most strength. This is the truth. This is the truth when you look at the history of every successful business. We can go into traffic and funnels, you can go into large companies such as Tesla, which I'm obsessed with. If you know me, I know everything that has ever happened to Elon Musk, pretty much. And there is strength when there is a worthy opponent, strong adversarial resistance. And I just get the sense that a lot of us are complaining, wondering why it's so difficult, when the very thing we're complaining about is the key to us developing the strength we need to get to the level that we claim we want. I got more of just pausing so that we cool off for a little bit. So this is good news, because if you feel like, and I'm sure a lot of you feel this way, but if you feel like there's too much going on in your world, or if you feel like it's too difficult, or you feel like you're surrounded by chaos and there's just all these moving pieces, there's good news and bad news. Number one is evolution happens gradually. Humans didn't wake up one day with just amazing eyesight because one of their friends got bit by a snake. That's not how it works. Evolution happens gradually. If you're looking for your big breakthrough, you just need to actually settle down for a minute and realize that if you're doing the right things, you know what's going to happen is you're just going to grow little by little and little by little and little by little, and then you're not even going to notice it, and someone's going to be like, what happened to you? Be like, what are you talking about? Your attitude, the way, your outlook, the car you're driving. And all of a sudden, you get into these new places where you've completely grown and evolved into a new place, but you almost didn't notice it. And when you look for your big breakthrough, this is what happens when people come in and in 7 days, they're like, I was told I would be a billionaire. Well, that's never going to happen. And I think a lot of times we have this massive breakthrough that we're looking for. And the reality is that it's probably going to happen gradually for you. And I know there are clients on here who can attest to that. That's been the case for you. That's the first thing, is learn to know what growth looks like. And it doesn't usually happen in one big climactic moment. Make sense? The second thing here is that you cannot evolve if you lay down and die. Number one, evolution happens gradually. Number two, you can't evolve if you lay down and die. And people, I think, sometimes are shocked when we are honest, and sometimes we talk about, like, even people look at me and they're like, well, if I had your resources, it's easy to talk about not dying when I have your money. It's easy to talk about enjoying the process when I have your team. No. Incorrect. Actually, it's exactly the opposite, because I feel like dying sometimes multiple times a day. The bigger your shit gets, the more problems you deal with, not the opposite. Where did this idea that as soon as I get my team trained, I just won't have to deal with anything again? Well, I hate to break this bad news, but you're in for the worst ride of your life if you think a team is going to save you. The bigger you get, the more impact you get, the more influence you get, the more problems you're going to deal with. So I don't actually get worried when I feel like I'm going to be eaten alive by snakes. That's not what scares me. What scares me is when I go too long without feeling like it. Sometimes I'll go 2 weeks without anything really crumbling. And I'm like, shit's about to hit the fan. Because you learn the cycles. Let's just go off on a tangent too, talking about being afraid. Here's another thing you got to realize, is that your fear must be trained. How many of you have ever felt afraid in the last 30 days? How many of you have felt fear, and what has that fear revolved around? This is a good little exercise. Type it in the chat box. I think a lot of people are afraid of different things. People are afraid of looking like losers in front of their friends. People are afraid of writing their first posts. That's what Phil said. People are afraid of all sorts of things. Here's what you have to realize, is that you cannot eradicate your fear, but you can rank your fear. You're not going to be able to negotiate with your fear, but you can prioritize your fear. You have to sometimes sit down and decide what you're going to be more afraid of. This is probably a new topic for some of you, but you might think that fear is a bad thing. Fear is not necessarily a bad thing, but unranked, unprioritized fear will destroy you. It's very healthy to sit down and decide, here's what I'm going to actually prioritize in terms of what I'm scared of. Are you going to be more afraid of looking silly in front of your family who's followed you on Facebook? Or are you going to be afraid of leaving this world at the end of your life having less impact? Are you going to be more afraid because you're overwhelmed and you have 10 weeks where it's really hard? Or are you going to be afraid of quitting and realizing that everything you wanted was in your grasp? You were just too weak to reach out and take it. Here's the thing. A lot of times, the fears that we have are extremely instructive of what's most important to us. You got to sit down and be conscious about this, because if you don't, unfortunately, that's an area where evolution has not helped us. We're still afraid of, like, being the social minority. We're still afraid of being the Lone Ranger, being eaten alive by a saber-toothed tiger. They don't even exist anymore. But our instincts haven't evolved. And so sometimes people make decisions based on a fear that is really, it should be the least ranked fear you have, but you're operating basically like it's your number one fear. I'm afraid of a lot of things, but I can tell you the top of my list in terms of what I'm afraid of is not a hater on my Facebook ad. It's not. I'm afraid of a lot of things, but offending someone for the sake of telling them the truth, that's not one of those things. It's not at the top of the list. When you want to get into the things that really drive me in terms of what I'm afraid of, I'm afraid that a year from now, I'll be in the same place that I am now, that I won't have grown. I'm afraid that 3 years from now, I will have not trained the right people to be able to multiply and exponentially increase my impact. And this gets really, really important the bigger you get, because you have to make a decision. Are you going to be more afraid of having a 10% profit margin instead of a 20% profit margin? Or are you going to be more afraid of burning yourself out and going to work at Walmart because you lost your energy? Just saying. Just saying. All right, let's get into this and we will wrap this up. 3 things to remember. All right, 3 things to remember. Write them down. Number 1, you must be consistent to evolve. Many of you have this sequence in your mind. You want to plant, harvest, water, till, harvest, till, harvest, harvest. No, it doesn't work like that. You plant, till, water, plant, till, water, plant, till, water, again and again and again and again. And the harvest shows up after a long period of consistency. You cannot plant, sprinkle a little water, then drop to your knees wondering why the heavens hate you and you haven't harvested. Some of you have been trying to build your business the wrong way for a long time. And in 35 minutes, you're not going to fix all of that. This is always my favorite story. People come in and they're red hot for the first 10 days. It's like, CK, oh my God, it changed my life. I love this. This is amazing. Then you never hear from them again, ever. You must be consistent to evolve. Sometimes that means showing up when it doesn't feel like showing up. Sometimes that means like waking up early, even though you were out late the night before. You have to be consistent. You plant, you water. Consistency. Number 2, enjoy it because it's right. If I had $1 for every client who is not having fun unless they're making $1 million, I would be a billionaire. You're just doing, if you're only going to do things because it gives you the outcome you want, besides the fact that you're very Machiavellianistic, which is something that might be dangerous in the future, besides that, it's just going to make you an unhappy person. You want to know the secret to unlimited energy? Here's the secret to unlimited energy. Is you get yourself to a place where you can enjoy the process more than you enjoy the scoreboard. Do you love to play the game? Or are you just looking at the scoreboard every 2 seconds? This is trainable. You can train this. So you're like, again, you hear it in your minds. Well, it's easy when you drive a Tesla. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because guess what? My normal is set at a different level than yours. If we're not making $28,500 a day, I'm going psycho. Seriously. If you follow normalization the way we teach it, the scoreboard doesn't mean anything because you just want to beat yourself from last month. You got to learn to enjoy the process because it's the right thing. There's a reward in the process. There's a reward in pushing forward. And then when you start to enjoy that because it's the right thing, you'd be amazed at how much flow comes into your life. How much flow, how much you don't have to just drive your head into the ground. You don't have to just push all your might. You're just enjoying the process. There's flow. Number 1, you got to be consistent to evolve. Number 2, enjoy it because it's right. I love the game. I love the game so much. I love the game. If you took away my money, I would still play the game. And now we're cooking. Now we're talking about someone who can actually create wealth. Oh, by the way, we're opening up some incredible opportunities right now. We've got a big amount of money that we're actually diverting into some real estate projects. And over the next 3 or 4 months, we'll be opening some of that open to some elite clients who just have a couple $100,000 sitting around, don't know what to do with it, for asset protection, opening up to employees. And I can tell you this, the excitement I feel when it's like, oh, you could fly private and be wealthy. Ah, cool. That sounds cool. The excitement I have when it's like, you could share opportunity and teach people and you could just actually invest yourself fully into the game, I go crazy. There's nothing that lights me on fire like the process. And if you want a secret, how have you guys grown so fast? How do you guys do so much? That's the secret. The game lights me on fire. And then winning the game is like, yeah, you guys may have seen the Super Bowl last night. Tom Brady just didn't even care. Like afterwards, he's just like, yeah. Like, just give me the ring. Cool, thanks. At a certain point, the drive to play the game, man, he's smiling more playing the game than he is receiving his ring. That's where you want to get to. Cool. Number 3. Number 1, consistency. Number 2, enjoy it because it's right. Play the game. Number 3, focus on the solution. Focus on the solution. Why are you in here talking about all your problems all the time? We know you have problems. Like, you're growing a business. Like, how stupid do you have to be to think that you can just grow a business and not have any problems? I'm not calling you all stupid. I'm just saying some people, they have stupid tendencies. Focus on the solution. You can't, what happens is when we start talking about and thinking about and meditating about the things that we don't enjoy, that we don't like, it constricts your whole nervous system. It's not just Taylor doesn't want you to complain. I don't care if you complain, because my income is not tied up necessarily in your self-discipline. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get you positioned so you can win. And I know from experience that the more I focus on solutions, the more solutions I create and the more money we make. Be very, very careful when you start noticing a pattern or a tendency of, well, this is broken and this is broken, and somebody told me this, and somebody posted yesterday, like, I've been told 3 times, okay, well, I just stopped reading, because you're problem focused, not solution focused. Focus on the solution at all times. So at the end of the day, you're never going to run out of things to be frustrated by. So if you get into that pattern now, good luck. I will see you at Starbucks in 3 years when you're working there. Or maybe you can be an Uber driver. If all you want to do is complain about the president and complain about this and that and the other, rather than thinking with the mind geared and tuned towards solution, you'll never make it. Number 1, you got to be consistent to evolve. Number 2, enjoy it because it's right. Play the game. Number 3, focus on the solution. All right, last question for you. How many of you are thankful that it's hard? Come on. All right, let's make it a great week. Adios.